Hello, what's up? How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm gonna go inside. I'm in Puerto Rico, so I'm real good. I see.
Oh, wow, you're in Puerto Rico. Oh, shit, okay.
It's been a long time, so I needed a break.
Oh,
Finally,
yeah.
so came out. I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
come in
okay.
because now the ice cream truck is outside. It was so nice with just the waves, and now the ice cream truck is there, and so just so folks can hear
Making
me.
mad noise and shit, right?
Yeah, and then the people won't be able to know what's going on with weed. So I gotta. I came
What
in.
up, Rico? What up, Diva? What up? What up, y'all? Yo, so, all right, weed is legal in New York right now. So I said, yo, I gotta ask somebody who knows what's going on to like fill us in on what can we do, what can't we do, what does this all mean? Like, tell us.
Well, hey everyone, my name is Pilar de Jesus. In my community, I'm known as Pilar la Problema, but I've added Pilar la Problema con la solución. So it's
No
Pilar the
problema.
problem with the solution. Because,
What up, y'all from Shabazz?
huh?
No, I was just saying what up to the people.
Okay. I'm involved in many different fights, and so one of them has been obviously marijuana. I say obviously because I've been a smoker I've turned 40 this Thursday, so I've been smoking since
Oh,
I was
happy birthday.
18. Thank you. That's why I'm partially also in Puerto Rico. But I've been smoking a long time, and I've been harmed when it comes to the effects of over policing, smoking weed or even smelling like weed or trying to
Yeah.
sell weed to, make pay our bills. And so, this obviously has been a big passion of mine. And obviously, I want to see us grow and I want to see us build. And so, we advocates and defenders have been fighting for what you saw just past last Tuesday now. I think it's been a week.
Yeah, 1 week.
Officially,
Yeah.
yeah, officially it's
Hmm.
been a week. We've been fighting for what passed was called the MRTA, which stands for the Marijuana Regulation Taxation Act.
Hmm.
And that was the bill that was created by us, advocates, defenders, people in the community, people who have been affected. Because the governor had a really bad bill, and we were like, "What? Your bill sucks!" Like he wanted to make it certain things that are felonies right now for marijuana. Misdemeanors. He wanted to make them felonies,
Oh,
and it was
wow.
like, what? It was
So he
backwards.
wanted to go backwards, really.
Backwards. He really wanted to go backwards, and it was really bad. And it's been the same bill he's been introducing for the last 3 or 4 years. And
Hmm.
it's been like, why do you even do that? We have this perfectly good bill that we, people who actually know what it should look like, especially learning from the other states, this is what it should look like. So, that's what passed. And it's not perfect. I just want to also note that, but it's a really good bill. And, we can talk about it a little bit more, but yeah, just a real quick, because this is the first question I always get. Can I smoke in the street?
Right. That's exactly what I was about to ask you.
Can
Can
you
I walk
smoke
up
it?
to a cop and say, yo, is Fifth Avenue that way or that way? While I'm smoking. Can I do
Depends
that?
where you're standing. If you're standing
Okay.
in a place where tobacco smoke is not allowed, then no, you cannot do
Okay.
that. So you are allowed to smoke wherever tobacco is allowed to be smoked right now. Here in New York City, Central Park is not allowed. We're not allowed to
Hmm.
smoke in parks.
Hmm.
So there's, certain places in the city you can't smoke there because of cigarettes, and certain business owners on their property say they don't want cigarettes, so you can't smoke there. And I also wouldn't encourage going up to the officer and blowing it in his face, but no, legally, he can't. If you're in a place that is a lot, you can legally smoke cigarettes. Also, which is the biggest thing, you can now, I mean, police officers can no longer stop you for smelling like weed and use that excuse to search and frisk you.
Okay, good, good. And we're allowed to have like weed on us too, right? Up to how
Yes.
much is it? 2 ounces or is it 3 ounces?
You're allowed to have up to 3 ounces.
Hmm.
And obviously can be selling it. You could carry it, possession. And again, everything is 21 and over. So there's a lot that, even though the bill is done, and it's about 95% of the work that we have done. And then they had to, if you know anything about politics, they have to pacify, you know, they have to like make the governor feel good and this and that. So
Right.
they play these games. And so the bill is not completely looks like how we wanted it. So now even more, we have to keep fighting to keep what we have in there, because there's still a lot of racist, you know, elected officials out here still thinking that weed is a gateway.
Right, right. Tell me, like, can I have plants in my house? I saw something that it said 3 plants or something that said 6 plants. So which one is it? And do you have any clarity on that?
So you could have up to 6 plants
Hmm.
per household, per member of the household. So let's say if you and your woman or partner or whoever is living with you, or they could also have up to 6 plants. The thing is that
So
you
I can
can't,
have 12 plants is what you're saying.
if between you and another person, and but it can't go,
Okay.
it can't, excuse me, it can't exceed 12 pounds.
Okay.
Because, you know,
Okay.
because sometimes some of these bigger plants produce more, you know, some plants produce more. So that's why they're saying you could at least have up to 5 pounds. Because some plants, you know, you may get like up to 5 pounds, or six plants or more, but they're
So
just
all this
saying
is
the max.
immediate.
Huh?
All this happens right away. So if a cop knocks on my door right now and is like, we got a warrant, we looking through your house, and I have 2 plants sitting here, do I get in trouble?
Well, I can't. That's a very broad question, because you said they have a warrant. So one, that means they had to have gone to a court to get a warrant. So
Hmm.
I don't know what judge right now, and they'd had to have done some investigation on you. So, and you know, I don't know how many cops are doing investigations on, you know, growing right now, especially with the climate change. But again, that's a broad question. But to answer your question, can you grow right now? Yes and no. We're still having the attorneys, excuse me, we're still having the attorneys really, you know, go through the bill like a comb, to say, like,
What up,
because
Mr. White Chair? What up?
I don't know if you've ever read bills, but they have all this lingo. So you can grow. You can
What up,
personally
concrete
grow your.
guy?
Hey everyone,
Batman Truth? What up? What
we're just talking about growing weed in New
up?
York.
Yeah,
It's legal. You should all become owners. That's another thing, consumption lounges. But to
right.
go back to your weed question, to growing, yes, personal grow is allowed. Now, when you start selling, now that's when you're going to need a permit. And
Hmm.
those ways about going to get that hasn't been done yet, because now that's in the second part of the fight.
Right. And that's what I wanted to ask you because now we got, our weed men who've been holding us down for a very long time. They about to go out of business because now somebody could just pull up to the dispensary like it's a liquor store, buy what they need to. So how does your regular, neighborhood weed man transition into being a business owner? But he was the first one here and he was risking his freedom doing it.
It's the
So
legacy
how
market.
do we respect those guys?
So, you know, that's another thing that's really in this bill, that's why it's like really one of the historical bill, because again, we are prioritizing, you know, folks who are in what we're calling the legacy market. And that was a name that went back and forth, because it's like, we don't want to call them the black market. We don't want to call them the underground market. Anyway, the legacy market, the people who are the experts in this business, right? They're
Right.
the ones who knows it, how they get the access. And so that's why too, in this bill, we made it where, you know, they're prioritized people who have like, you have to identify at certain ways to be prioritized. So someone who's been doing it for a long time, but also that there's funding and pathways available. So like
Right.
incubator programs, so that if you want to start your own business, like a worker co-op, I talk to people about worker co-ops all the time, being an owner and a worker with your peers. You
What up,
there,
Reese?
we've talking about creating pathways. So in this bill, that's why we're so proud of it too, because we're trying to repair the harm, because we've lost jobs, we've lost, you know, access to education, lost housing,
Yeah.
we've lost
Yeah.
our livelihood because of prohibition. So what do we get in return now that there's people making millions of dollars and billions of dollars
Right.
that don't look like us? So
We
that's
don't
why
want
this
somebody
bill.
just moving in our neighborhood, set up a dispensary in an open, store that they just rented, and now they taking all the money from our people. That's what we don't want.
So people just got to get together, start getting your business plans together, start thinking about worker co-ops. You know, you can reach out to people like me, people at Take Root Justice, Worker Cooperative Academy. again, if you want information, it's there. There's resources. It's just about knowing about them, right? And so that's what the whole point of this is. But like I said, that was part one. They could now come in and take that all away if we don't hold it down, because they
Okay.
did that with bail reform. We got bail reform where you didn't have to go to fucking Rikers for fucking bail. And a
Right.
bill passed that ended that, and people came back and reappealed it. So,
So you're
like,
saying
let's
that they can like
celebrate.
reverse this whole thing?
They could change it in the regulatory. They could add a lot of different things that's going to make it really challenging for us. Like, we
Mm.
built, so think of it like this. Like, this is my favorite analogy to help people understand. Think of it like building a house, right? You've built the
Mhm.
framework, right? But you haven't put in the insulation. You haven't put the sheetrock up. You haven't put in the, all the other stuff, the plumbing, the electricity. So we've built the framework and some really good ones, especially around the decriminalization. But we still
Mhm.
got to add all that other stuff when it comes to making money, comes to having access. So it's not
Right.
over. And there's like a board that the governor gets to choose. It's a 5-man board who's
So
going to be able
Jeffrey,
to decide who gets licenses and who's don't, and who knows what they look like. They're going to be a bunch of white men. I don't want that.
yeah, exactly. I mean, especially since our people have been risking their freedom to hold it down for a very long time. So that brings me to this next question: what happens to the low level, possession people? Hey, I got caught with 2 ounces on me last month. And now I got a conviction. Can they expunge that? Can they overturn that now that 3 ounces this month is legal? you know?
So yeah, that's another really beautiful thing about the bill. Like, of course it's good to be able to smoke freely, right? Without fucking being harassed by police and,
Right.
being able to create generational wealth. But another thing is it's the most, beside and not being harassed by the smell of weed, is that yes, if you have marijuana charges on your record, those are to be expunged.
Mm.
If you are sitting in prison, so this is, people also ask me this question, well, what about the people in prison? Are they going to come out?
Right.
It's yes and no, because it's tricky. Remember, there's still a lot of folks who are in prison for not just marijuana. They have like
Mhm.
marijuana and something else. So, but what can happen is, now that the expungement for the marijuana would come off, it could go where they can get resentenced. But that process and that how that's going to work hasn't been established yet. That comes in the regulatory. But ideally, yes, people's records records, who people who have marijuana records, expunged. How the process will play out, that's to come.
Okay. And like, tell me, do you know anything about like the dispensaries where they could possibly be? Are there certain zones? Can they be, on the same block as a school, a church, a hospital?
Yeah, and that's a
Is
that's
it
a
going to
good
kind of be
question.
like a liquor store kind of situation? Like, can
Yes.
you tell me about that a little bit?
Yeah, so yeah, they're definitely treating marijuana, unfortunately, and that's because we have a bigger fight on a federal level why they're doing
Mhm.
that. But they're definitely treating it like alcohol, and so like you definitely cannot have a dispensary by a school. I don't remember the exact number, but no schools, churches. Also, and this is goes to a lot of my people out here who are out here doing the nerds and doing all these SpongeBob branding things.
Yeah.
It's not allowed. You can't do anything that is appealing to children. Like, that's a
Ah,
big thing. So
okay.
that's, if your brand is anything cartoonish that is, again, associated with kids. I don't even think the Kit Kat stuff, I don't know for sure.
Ah,
We're still going through the comb of it, because again, it's 126 pages.
mhm.
And legal lingo is not fun, but yeah, so that's also something, people who are thinking of being dispensaries and all that, or creating their own strain, you cannot have cartoon, graphics in your
Mhm.
labeling. Also, I also want to say this, because everybody is also about dispensaries. There's so much more than just dispensaries. Just
Mhm.
remember that there's so much more. You don't have to touch the plant, because even there's a lot of people who still, because they have a federal charge and they're on parole, they can't still touch the plant. There's people who are
Right.
undocumented who still can't touch the
Right.
plant. So, but there's a lot of jobs available. Like, we need more lawyers. So if law is your shit, fucking become a cannabis lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that, and this is just like your personal opinion, I guess, private companies in New York will, I mean, of course, they still might drug test, but not for marijuana since it's legal in the state.
So in New York City, you said drug test, right?
Yeah.
So in New York City in 2019, because we've been really fighting really hard to get legalization happen. So what we did in the city when we saw the governor wasn't going to pass, we worked with the city elected officials. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Your city, your state, and your federal, they all make different decisions. They work on different
Mm-hmm.
levels. And so we worked with the city to create a bill and a legislation that would prevent employers from firing or testing people for marijuana. But that's a state level. So if you work at the federal post office, because marijuana is still a Scheduled 1 drug, so it
Right.
says that it's worse than fucking heroin right now. The federal government is saying that marijuana is worse than fucking heroin. And so,
Which is
right, yeah, it's
ridiculous.
crazy. So if you
Yeah.
work at a federal job like the MTA or anything like that, you can't smoke weed. So even though it's legalized in New York, you can't, if you work at a place at a federal level and they drug test, you can be fired. And even
Gotcha.
though Chuck Schumer though is saying that he's going to deschedule it this year, so let's see.
We'll see. Do you really think that, federally marijuana will ever become legal in the country?
I want to have optimism, like, and believe, yes, but you want to know what's crazy? As I've been, like, I'm also in the psilocybin world, the mushroom world, so that's a whole nother live. But there's never been a descheduling of any drugs since Nixon introduced descheduled of drugs.
Wow.
So yes and
That is
no. It would be
yeah.
a great historical thing, but it's never happened
Yeah.
with any drug, none of the drugs.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Because it's a war on black and brown people. Remember that. It's a war on
Right. So
drugs. It's a war on us.
they need a reason to lock us up some way, somehow.
How do you think
So,
the prison industrial complex makes money?
yeah, exactly. Bodies and time, man. The more time, the more money, the more bodies. Let's get them in. Let's get them in. They don't have a lawyer. Cool, no problem. Convict them. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the way it is, man. So, do you have any advice for like your average New York weed smoker today? Like, hey, here's how you could be careful. Whatever, whatever.
So here's my advice, and I tell this to everyone. One, we're going to need more people to push these very racist people who are still existing in the state level of New York State. We're going to need to push them because things can change. So I want to remind people, let's celebrate. We should. I am celebrating, but I also am like, okay, I'm on you. So we have to still be on them. Start really, you know, we have to work together. I use this other analogy about Care Bears. If we act like the Care Bears and we put our Care Bears stare together, we are so powerful. We have to work together and do that. Also, start thinking about generational wealth. Don't doubt yourself. We all have skills. And it goes back to my Care Bear stare. Though everyone has a skill. And again, if we just put them together, we are so much more powerful and we can become rich and powerful together. And rich is not just money. It's about a lot of things. And so I would say that. I would say, like, with weed, again, if you're smoking in the street, I understand what it feels like to want to fucking go up to a cop and be like, but
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah, for real.
just be mindful if there's tobacco smoke allowed or not allowed. Don't be obnoxious. I don't
Yeah,
want to tell you what to do, but just know if there's tobacco smoke or what not. And think outside of the box. It's not just dispensaries, consumption lounges, which I didn't get to really touch on, but consumption lounges is a really good thing. That's one of the businesses I'm planning to open. So I already have
well, that's
my
great.
consulting company, to help people understand what was been going on the plant, doing community education. But I want a consumption lounge because you still can't smoke in public housing. So that's another thing. People who live in public housing, you still cannot smoke weed on the grounds because that's a federal
Right. You can't smoke
Harvard.
cigarettes, hookah,
Can't
nothing
smoke
like that, right?
cigarettes, nothing. Yeah, you don't. They don't allow none of the tobacco, and that's another thing I have in the part in the regulatory. I kind of want to fight. I don't like that we're kind of labeling it and associating it to tobacco and alcohol. And in my mind, marijuana is like a tomato, and so
Right.
I don't. And yeah. And like when people be like, "Oh, the smell," I'd be like, "You like the smell of garlic?" Because I love the smell of garlic.
Yeah, man. And weed smell is good. You're like, whoa, it smells good up in here, you know?
Yes,
Yo,
exactly.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time out. You're on vacation, you're in Puerto Rico, but you still took the time out to sit with me so we get, some information about this. We were supposed to do it
It's
yesterday.
important.
I was at a video shoot, so I apologize for that. Let everybody
It's
know where they
okay.
can find you.
Yeah, so you can follow me at Pilars, Pilars _ Orenda, Orenda. Also, All That Jive, New York City at Gmail. Also, we're having a big 420 celebration in East Harlem. Again, it's a family community celebration, so we're going to march from 125th Street to 111th Street to the People's Church, which is the church the Young Lords organized out of in the 70s, if you know anything about the Young Lords. And we're just going to educate the
Yeah,
community a little bit more about what happened. We're going to have some lawyers there who have, at this point, read the bill 7 times. And so, like, to see, because again, it was our bill, but they put some of their stuff in there. So we have to see what exactly fuckery they did, right?
right,
So we're going to have
exactly.
this big event in East Harlem. So follow me. I'll get you the info. I love sharing information. So just reach out. If I don't get back, as you know, I'm on vacation celebrating my 40th birthday. I haven't had a vacation since 2009. So,
Wow. Yo, you deserve it. You deserve it. I see you out here every day fighting, getting arrested, yelling at people, being like, what the fuck? So definitely you deserve it. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and
no
enjoy
problem.
your vacation.
Thank you for doing this. It's really important that everyone starts doing this because, again, we have to be informed. You know your rights, because if you don't know your rights, then what good is it, right? Like, we could celebrate, but if you don't know what's going on and know how to utilize it in the same way they do to us,
Right,
that's
right.
how we get played. So, yeah.
Yeah, knowing is the first key. It's the first key, man.
Yes,
For sure.
exactly.
Thank
All
you. Thank
right.
you very much.
Bye,
All right,
guys.
peace.
Bye from Puerto Rico. I'm sorry. I'm going to just cry.
Later.
Bye.